Hello girls, gays, and non-binary babes. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about all of the books that I read in June. Also, my dogs are right next to me, so if they jump up here, that is to be expected, and they will probably be joining us for this video. So, yes, I'm very excited to talk about all these books. I have, I think, 8 or 9 to talk about. I didn't get a lot of reading done because I got married, went to Greece, and then went to a Taylor Swift concert, so didn't get a whole lot of reading done this month, but that's okay, and I'm excited to talk about them anyway. The lowest rating I gave was 4.5 stars, so I read some fantastic books, and I'm really excited to talk about them. But first, before we talk about all the wonderful books I read this past month, we have to do the ad read. If you know me, you know I love jewelry, and fancy jewelry at that. My ears are full, my nose is full, and that is why I am so excited to share that I am officially a partner with Louisa, and I will be partnering with them a few more times throughout the year, and I am so excited. I have partnered with Louisa before, and I've absolutely loved them as a company, as a brand, and I love their jewelry, obviously. I would not take a sponsorship for a brand that I did not absolutely love, and I absolutely love Louisa. So these are the pieces that I picked out this month to receive, and I am so excited about all of them. I wear them pretty much every day. My little necklace, I don't, just because sometimes it feels like it's choking me when I'm like laying in bed with it on, but everything else I wear literally every day, in the shower, everything. They are tarnish resistant, so they are gonna last you years without getting tarnished or fading or anything like that, and they are all backed by a 2-year warranty anyway, so if anything happens, tarnishes, breaks, they will send you a replacement, no questions asked, and I really love that about them. My favorite part by far though is that they are entirely carbon neutral, which is a huge thing in this day and age, and I really appreciate that companies like Louisa are trying to make the world a better place for all of us, or at least not as bad a place as it could be. I do have a code and a link all in the description box if you are interested. But yeah, I really just love Louisa and their jewelry. I have since I first partnered with them, and I'm so excited to be an official partner now. So, jumping right into the video, the first book that I read for June was Atalanta by Jennifer Saint. I think this actually came out in June. I can't remember exactly, but I did buy this copy when I was in Greece. I did get a few different Greek myth books while I was over there, and this was one of the ones I picked up. And I read this for the whole duration, essentially, of my trip, and so this was the only one that I gave 4.5 stars. So obviously the rest of the month really blew me out of the water, but that does not mean I did not like this book. Obviously 4.5 stars is a fantastic rating, and I really liked it. So this one obviously follows Atalanta, and she is raised by Artemis, and Artemis is like I can't remember what they're called. Her, like, not priestesses, but like little followers, like nymph followers, I don't know. Anyway, she ends up on the Argo with Jason to get to steal the Golden Fleece, and she's the only woman on board this ship, and it tells her story and how kind of people have forgotten her over the years and all that good stuff. I think the only reason I docked like 1/2 star from this was because the whole thing through and through didn't completely grab my attention, but I was also in Greece, so who knows if that could be why. I think I was just more interested in the fact that I was literally in Greece rather than reading about it. So yeah, that could be why, but overall I still really like this book and I would highly recommend it. Jennifer Saint also wrote Ariadne and Electra, which I read in May. But yeah, if you're interested in Atalanta story or like a feminist Greek mythology story, then I think you'd really like this one. I know I did, for sure. Okay, next up we have another Greek myth story, and that is Stoneblind by Natalie Haynes. I also picked this one up while I was in Greece, and I read this on my flight home. Well, mostly on my flight home. I also read it after that. But, this obviously follows Medusa for the most part. It is 3 points of view. It is not solely Medusa's point of view. And I honestly really liked that. I love Greek myths that take into account other people's stories surrounding one event, essentially. And I think it was done really well here. It's not solely focused on Medusa, but it does solely focus on the legend of Medusa, I suppose you could say. But yeah, what I liked most about this was her relationship with her sisters in this one. I've read a few Medusa stories and you never really get that perspective. And I really liked that this included that relationship and how close they were or would have been and how it affected all of them differently. So yeah, overall I really like this one and I give it 5 stars. I don't think that needed to be said. So next up, I read a book that was recommended to me by somebody in my comments at one point. I do not remember who it was, what video it was on, nothing. But that is Loot by Jennifer Thorne. So this, I was a little hesitant to read because at first glance it does kind of look YA, but it is not, it is adult. But this is essentially like Final Destination meets The Wicker Man. And those are like 2 of my favorite movies. So I love this. Obviously I gave it 5 stars. It was fantastic. This is set on an island, a very remote, secluded island with not very many people living there. And every 7 years they have the day, which is where 7 people meet their death in like a Final Destination-y kind of way. It's kind of fate intervening, and it's like the island's the spirit of the island taking these lives as sacrifice to keep everyone on the island safe. This was a lot more graphic than I thought it was going to be, kind of in the same way that the Final Destination movies are. It's like very sudden and jarring, and this was kind of the same way. I remember one scene in particular, I just remember being like, oh my god, okay, like it's so shocking and surprising. You weren't expecting it. But yeah, I really like this. If you're okay with graphic violence, then I'd say pick this up. If not, probably pass on it. But I really like this, and like I said, I gave it 5 stars, so I thought it was fantastic. So the next 2 I don't have copies of, so I will be just throwing up a picture of them on the screen. But next we have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This is by Heather Fawcett. I have waited 4 months to read this book. I have been such a patient girl. I put a hold on this from my library and it took me 4 months to get it. And when did I get it? The day before I left for my wedding. So of course I had to wait until I got back to read it, but it was well worth the wait. I absolutely adored this book. I knew I would. I had heard that the romance was really good, and I love fairies and everything to do with like nature and kind of the cryptid scene that fairies kind of come from, in a way, like cryptid mythology kind of thing. But yeah, obviously I really like this one. It it was just so cozy and fun. And it's so hard to explain. Like, it just hit everywhere it needed to. If you didn't know, this one is about a girl named Emily Wilde, who is a researcher for like a fairy kind of researcher, and she is on this trip to help her write this book on fairies. And there's another guy that kind of like has the same job as her, as like an enemy in the field. Not an enemy, but like she thinks he's a prick and has a stick shoved up his ass and stuff like that. But they kind of have to work together and figure things out, and we all know how that goes. So yeah, obviously I loved it. I love stuff like that, and this was no different. And at least now that it took so long for me to read the first book, I have to wait less time to read the second one. So you win some, you lose some, and that's definitely the case for this one. Okay, next up, I read a very exciting arc. I cannot remember when this comes out. Let me look it up, but I will talk about it while I'm Googling it. So, fear not. So, the next book I read was Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. And this comes out, please hold, October 31st. It comes out on Halloween of this year. And I think that is perfectly fitting of this book. So, this was amazing. This is Alex E. Harrow's best work yet to date. I loved it. It was so moody and atmospheric and gothic, and I loved like the atmosphere of it overall. I just keep going back to the fact that I can feel like, you know, when you go to like a thrift store and when you're done, your hands just feel a little like icky, like they feel a little dusty, a little dry. That's like how like my skin felt the whole time. Like I could feel like dust, and I could feel like the mugginess of the air, because this takes place in Louisiana. Don't quote me on that. It takes place somewhere in the south where it's very muggy and it's the dead of summer. But this is about a girl who is homeless. Her mother died years ago. She is raising her brother, who is, I think, like a senior in high school, and she's trying to get him out of their city, or their town, because there's like a huge corporation that is polluting the air and the water and all that, and he has asthma. So she's like, I gotta find the money for you to get out of here. So she finds this job at Starling House, which is like the local legend house, and she starts working there as a maid. And there's lots to clean. She's there forever, but it pays really well, suspiciously well. And while she's there, she becomes acquaintances with the current owner of the house and kind of what he's doing, what he's up to, why he's so weird. And things happen. It's creepy. But my favorite part of this whole thing is that the haunted house aspect of this is not like right up in your face. It's kind of laid back, and I think that makes it creepier. And I just love this so much. I can't wait to get my hands on a copy of it and read like a finished copy. But definitely put this on your radar for Halloween, because it is perfect for that time of year. And I think it's gonna be a good one. I'm telling you right now. So next we have another Greek myth book. The last one I'll be talking about here, but another one that I got in Greece, and that is Psyche and Eros by Luna McNamara. This is a love story, and I was super intrigued going into this to read a Greek myth retelling that is solely a love story, because most of them are like war, fighting, kind of like the life of a certain person, but I haven't gotten to a sole, like, primary, the point of the story is this love story. So I was really intrigued to read this, and I loved it. I love a good love story. It is one of my favorite things to read in books, and this was no different. So if you don't know who Psyche and Eros are, Psyche is was immortal, and Eros is like essentially Cupid. He calls himself Cupid a lot in this book, so I'm like fairly certain that's like the Roman name for him. So he's the god of love, but like lust. So not like Aphrodite love, he's just like the god of love. I don't know how to explain it, but essentially they are cursed so that Eros falls in love with Psyche, and he falls in love with her like at first glance, and then if they ever look at each other again, like the ground beneath them will be ripped in two and they will be separated to like opposite ends of the earth, and every time they look at each other's faces that will happen. And so they kind of have to get through this and figure out a way around it and through it and over it and under it. I don't know. But it's really good. Highly recommend this if you like romance and if you like Greek myths. So who doesn't like either of those? I don't know. Not me. I loved this. Gave it 5 stars. It was fantastic. And I haven't heard anybody talking about it. So yeah, maybe I'm the first. I don't know. Next up, I'm just going to talk briefly about this one because it's like number 4 or 5 in a series. But I read Pocket Apocalypse by Seanan McGuire. This is from the Encrypted series, and this follows Alex and his girlfriend Shelby. They go to Australia to fight werewolves. I love this series. I say this every time. I love this series. It's fun. It's like a little rom-com after watching, like, I don't know. Like, you say you will watch like a bunch of war movies in a row, and then you watch a rom-com. This is like the rom-com. It's like candy. It's fun. It's exciting, but you don't have to think about anything. And I really like that. So obviously I'm still reading the series. I really love this book. Gave it 5 stars. Primarily what I liked about this one though was the lore of the werewolves that Seanan McGuire created, and how that related to the AIDS epidemic and seemed to kind of parallel that. It was really fascinating to me, and I really think that's a kind of genius take on it, and I really liked it. So yeah, if you're looking for like a fun little silly little series that's still ongoing, it's got like 12 books in it, then I'd recommend the Encrypted series. At this point I just need to make a video just on that series, but yeah, very good. Highly recommend them. But that is, I think, book 4. So, and finally, we have the best book I read this month, which I don't know. The girls who get it. The girls who don't. Mayfly by C.J. Lead. This is arguably a weird one to call my favorite from this past month, but I'd be lying if it said it wasn't my favorite. So this is kind of described as a female American Psycho. I don't know how true that is because I've never watched nor read American Psycho. Definitely on my to be read and to be watched lists, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But this one was so good and so unexpected. I feel like maybe it's just me that has this book all over my feed, like my Twitter feed, but is this book like kind of mainstream? My library had it, so it must be like somewhat, but I was not expecting the level of gore and disturbingness from a relatively mainstream horror novel. The only thing close to this that I've read is like Cows, and that's like so far past the line that you can't even see the line. But this one's not quite as bad, but it was still like kind of shocking to read, like in a library book. I don't know. There's lots of things with eyeballs and curling irons that have scarred me for life. But yeah, especially the ending, which I won't say, but the ending scarred me for life. I will be thinking about that forever and ever and ever. But yeah, this one is about Mayfly, who's taking care of her grandmother, and she works as like essentially a Disney princess at Disneyland. And so these two things are like all she has. She has her best friend that I think she plays Elsa, and her friend plays Anna, but like the names are like never said, but it's implied. So she has her best friend and her grandmother who she takes care of and is basically like on hospice. And at the same time, like in the beginning of this book, she loses both of them, or she realizes that she's going to lose both of them, and she kind of goes insane. And I love an insane woman. I love an insane woman, and I love Mayfly. Love her. Kind of scared of the author, just a little bit, but I respect it, and I don't know what else to say about this. It's fucking weird and disturbing. I would not recommend this to your average reader, but if you're not your average reader and you're really into horror and gore and stuff like that, then why not, you know? But yeah, I loved it, gave it 5 stars, and it was by far my favorite book of the month. So I think that says a lot. And that is going to do it for this video. Don't forget to check out Ana Louisa and their website if you are interested. I have everything linked below, all the information you need. So yes, thank you so much to Ana Louisa. Thank you so much to you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.